Hello and welcome to another tutorial. Today's tutorial is going to be about adding props to avatars, both using blend shapes in Blender so that they are one object, or adding them in Unity as a separate object, as well as compound gestures. So to get started, as you see here, I have Shaggy, and I'm going to click on the body mesh, and I'm going to enter edit mode by hitting tab. Now what I'm doing here is I'm going to be adding this hair into Shaggy's head as a blend shape. So I'm going to select the whole thing using one vertice selection and hitting Control L to select the entire material. And I'm going to go to the icon that has 3 dots and a triangle, and that will enable me to go down to shape keys, which are known as blend shapes in Unity. When I exit edit mode, I can hit a plus sign and it'll add a shape key. So I'm going to name that shape key Goku hair. Now that I've created the blend shape, I'm going to re-enter edit mode while that blend shape is selected. And what this will allow me to do is it'll allow me to record the location of the hair as a shape key. So I'm going to shrink that down and put it inside of his head so it's out of sight. I'm going to shrink it down real tiny. And I'm now going to do the same thing with his original hair. So I will show you what that'll look like. Basically, when the blend shape is maxed, it'll disable his normal hair and shrink it inside of his head. And the other one, when it's at 0, will make it full. Real quickly though, I am going to move the hair down so it matches, and then I will load this into Unity to show you how to use this in a gesture. So now that we're in Unity, I'm going to click on the body mesh of Shaggy here, and that will give me the skin mesh renderer, which will let me see all the different visemes, which are also known as blend shapes in Unity. So I'm going to go down to Goku's hair and set that value to 100 to hide it. That way, when you're in game, it will be hidden. However, we can use a gesture to reveal it. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the object by clicking on it and hitting Control D. What that'll do is that'll make a copy of the model. I'm going to click on that, and under Window, you're going to see a tab called Animation. So I'm going to click on that, and I actually dragged it down here, but you can move it around and put it wherever you want. And while selecting Shaggy, I'm going to hit Create. Then I'm going to locate his folder and make a animation file labeled Goku hair Shaggy so I can find it. Alright, now that's saved. Now I'm going to hit this little red circle. What this will do is it'll put him into a crouching position, because what that does is this is the default position that a model goes into when nothing is being animated in its bone structure. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this and click on body, and I'm going to set his hair to 0 now and set his normal hair to 100. So that will switch it over so that you see his Goku hair, but it hides his Shaggy hair. So now that that has happened, you'll see these 2 keyframes down here that show those values. So you're going to click on the dot at the very top row and have them all highlighted. And you're going to hit Control C to copy. Then you're going to click the next notch and duplicate them with Control V. This way you have a single frame animation that when it's playing again and again, it will keep it out. And that is what a gesture is it is a single frame animation that is looping constantly to keep a hand in a certain pose, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and delete what we just did here, because I also want to show you something called Muscle Animator, which during this gesture, I want to be able to make a fist while his hair's out. So I'm going to use Muscle Animator, and when you have the circle down, this will let you pose the fingers on the hand. So I'm going to pose it into a fist. If you do not have Muscle Animator, you will unfortunately have to position and make those rotations painfully one by selecting the fingers in the armature and then sitting there and slowly using the rotation tool while on pivot and local, I believe, and you position them painfully and slowly, and it will record every single one of those movements. So now I'm going to also hit copy values to mirror, so that'll copy all the values of the fist on the one side to the other, because I want both hands to make a gesture regardless of which one I use. So I'm going to copy those frames, and now we're going to move on to adding an item to Shaggy the same way. However, this item is going to be added within Unity. Now the object I'm going to be adding to Shaggy now is I'm going to use a rubber chicken, and I'm going to shrink this down. I'm going to position it in his right hand by the neck. Keep in mind that right now he's T-posed, so you're going to have to position the chicken or whatever items, swords, etc., guns, in the hand area so that the item where you want it to hold is going to be right in the palm of his hand almost, like just hovering a bit away and more closer to the wrist. So that should be about it, right about there. Because I want it to be held like this, I'm going to hold it like that, which is usually a 45-degree angle with most models. All right, now keep in mind I positioned this chicken outside of Shaggy's body. However, because I want it to be in his actual hand, you're going to want to expand, and what I do is I usually just click on the arrow while holding Alt, and it'll expand everything. And I'm going to drag that into his right wrist slot right here. However, I'm going to go a step further and make something called a compound gesture. So what I'm going to do is inside the chicken here, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to create a audio object, and I'm going to lower the Doppler, and I'm also going to remove the audio source because that'll make sure it plays on the avatar sounds. And I'm also going to change the minimum distance to as a maximum as possible. That way, when I upload it, the SDK will automatically make it as loud as possible in the furthest range possible within their limitations. Now, I have not set an audio yet, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a slap sound, which I believe I have. And I'm going to test that here. All right. Let's see. Slapped. I like that one, so we're going to grab that, and I'm going to drag that slap sound into there. And I'm also going to name this to slap. Now, to go one step further, I'm going to make it so there's a dynamic bone that gets enabled only when I am slapping. So I'm going to actually have it on the audio source, and I'm going to add a component for dynamic bones. And I'm going to drag the chicken into there, and I'm going to give it some settings here. That way I can swing it around. All right. Now what that'll do is I'm going to disable the audio file by clicking Inspector, this button right here, and that'll disable it. So we're going to have one gesture enable the chicken, and we're going to have another gesture enable the slap sound. So that way you can have the chicken out, and then you use another gesture while doing a slap motion to create the sound effect. You can do this for guns, so you can have a particle that shoots a gun and makes the sound for shooting a gun. But because you put it inside the object, it will not enable unless the gun is out, which will prevent you from accidentally shooting and creating noise and possibly getting blocked because you're annoying. So next, I'm going to disable the chicken as well. And I'm going to move on to creating the animation for this. So I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. I'm going to hit Control D and duplicate the model. I'm going to hide the original. I'm going to click on the new model, go to the Animation tab. I'm going to create a new one called Chicken Out. That will be the gesture I use to pull the chicken out. I'm going to do the same thing as before. I'm going to click the red circle, which will start recording everything I do as a keyframe. I'm going to expand the armature, and then I'm going to click on the chicken and enable it. What this will do is it will add a keyframe. However, if your object has an armature and an animator, what you'll notice is when you click on it, it'll switch over to the animator on that object and you'll lose the keyframe. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete the animator on the chicken and go back up to the main model and hit the red circle again. So I'm going to go back down to the chicken. I'm going to enable and disable it. And what that'll do is it'll create a keyframe where it's enabling the chicken. Next, I'm going to click on the muscle animator, which when you install it, you'll find under here, under Window. And then I'm going to just sit here and position the hand to be holding the chicken. Now, one thing you'll notice is every time I move the model, sometimes it snaps up and down, and that is unfortunately a problem with muscle animator that I've noticed. But it doesn't always happen. So now I'm going to sit here and take the time to make it look like I'm grabbing the chicken. All right, a few more adjustments. Got to make sure Shaggy has a firm grip on that chicken for when it wiggles around with the dynamic bones. All right, I like how that is posed. Now, however, the left hand does not have anything in it, so I'm actually going to make that do a different gesture. So I'm going to have it so that when I point, the chicken comes out. So I'm going to, on the left hand, I'm going to use a finger point gesture. Once I'm happy with all of that, I'm going to select the top keyframe and make sure everything is selected and hit Control C like before, and then hit the next keyframe and hit Control V to paste. Now I am done with that gesture. Keep in mind you can also add a property and go through and locate an object and enable it that way by finding the chicken here in case you didn't want to remove the animator on something because it had an animation that will play when it starts. You'll find that object and then you'll go ahead and click is active and scroll over and there'll be a little plus sign. When you do that, however, it will spawn a second keyframe all the way at the 1 second mark instead of the 1 frame mark. You'll want to click on that and delete it because the animation will cause your hand to get stuck if it is not just 1 frame long. Now I'm going to move ahead and I'm going to create a new animation. And this animation will enable the slap audio object inside of the chicken. So we're going to call this Slap Shaggy. We're going to hit the record just like before, and we're going to locate the chicken, and we're going to click on the slap item and enable that. Now, keep in mind, this is, if you use the left hand to trigger the sound, everything will be fine because you'll be using the right hand to hold the chicken. And that is going to be the intended way of using it. However, I'm going to make a fist in the right hand and finger point in the left hand again. That way, you can't tell that I enabled the gesture. So I'm going to move that there. You can actually copy and paste the positions of the fingers to another animation if you so desire as well. So I'm just going to finish posing this. And there we go. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to now click on this and do this. And now I've copied with Control-C the frames and Control-V again, making a single frame animation that when you see it playing, it will stay out and it will enable the slap sound. I'm going to now disable that object. In fact, I'm actually going to delete it entirely and enable the default Shaggy, because I'm going to add one more thing, and it'll be a particle system. So to add a particle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a particle pack that I got off the asset store for free that has a couple little samples. This one's called the KTK sample pack. I'm going to type in aura because it comes with an aura effect that I'm going to use. Let me see here. I believe it's this looping one that I want to use. So I'm going to drag that in. And I'm going to test it out by clicking on the particle system. And as you see, that will be what I want to use. So I'm going to edit this a little bit here. Make it green, go through every little particle. And I'm going to optimize it some as well by making sure to go down to the renderer and disable the ability for particles to cast and receive shadows, because that really helps. And we're going to limit the particle to only be able to do 20 maximum particles on the aura. And on this one, 20 as well. And of course, disable the ability for it to cast and receive shadows, because that means if you're in a world or use a real-time light that casts shadows, it will cast a shadow for every single particle, creating massive lag. As some people have noticed, it does do that a lot when people use particles, and that's a good way to avoid it. So now that I've optimized the particle system, I like where it's at. It only needs to be on the ground, so the default position's fine. And I'm going to drag that inside of Shaggy's aura, or not his aura. I'm going to drag it inside of his armature. And I'm going to just name that aura. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to add a sound effect similar to like we did with the chicken. And I'm going to call that power up. I'm going to delete the object just like before. And I'm going to use a DBZ sound effect of him powering up. Now to test this, I'm going to enter play mode without disabling the aura to give you an example of what's going to happen. Alright, so now that we have that, it'll keep looping, but the sound effect will only play once, because inside the sound effect, I only have it make the sound once without looping, which is exactly what we want, because the sound effect does not actually loop properly. So now I'm going to disable that aura particle. And I'm going to do exactly what I did before, duplicate it with Control-D, minimize the old one, and just create an animation where it's going to be called Shaggy Power Up. Actually, I do not want to do that. What I want to do is I have an animation that I've already used, but we're going to add to it. So I'm going to locate the Shaggy power-ups from before, where he brings out his Goku hair, because I want them to happen simultaneously. But I've already deleted the object that had that animation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the animation and drag it onto Shaggy here. And what that'll do is it'll actually add the animation to the model, so I can go back and edit it. So I'm going to click on delete the second keyframe, and I'm just going to go in here, hit the red dot, and I'm going to do add properties time. So I'm going to click on this, go to the aura, hit is active, and just to be sure to see if it added that extra keyframe, it did not. So I'm going to click and hit this little check mark to enable that. So that what will happen is when we duplicate this keyframe, it will ensure that both are on, both the hair and the aura. So what I'm going to do is go in here and test that, just like before. it'll actually play the animation on the model and show the hair come out. And there we go. So I'm going to add these all in the final step to the model in something called a gesture override. For the final part of this tutorial, what we're going to do is we're going to add a custom override to Shaggy, and what that'll do is it'll allow us to place those animations inside of different gestures. You'll put that inside the avatar descriptor, which you see here, and right now there's no custom animation selected. So to find the custom override, what I'm going to do is type in custom over in the search box here, and it's going to find custom override empty inside the SDK. So I'm going to hit this little X here while that's selected to go straight to that folder. And while it's selected, I'm going to hit Control D to copy it. Then I'm going to locate the folder for Shaggy, and you can just drag it right over. I actually have a billion files, so to make this quicker, I'm going to just show you how to drag it over, and you drop it in. However, that wasn't where I'm supposed to put it. I actually already have a custom override with some things already in it for Shaggy right here. So I'm going to drag that into the custom standing animation and the custom sitting animation. Then you click on it and you'll see that, for example, I already have emotes replaced with a couple dances. And then you'll see finger point, fist, handgun, open hand, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the Goku transformation to his rock and roll, which is Shift F6 on desktop. And then I'm going to add the chicken out to the finger, like so. And for the last one, I'm going to show you, I'm going to click on the little dot beside open hand, and it'll open up a window that looks like this. I'm going to type in Shaggy to find it quicker, and I'm going to find the slap Shaggy. That will be the one, so when I have finger point on one hand, I will hit open hand on the other, and it will cause the slap. However, this model is going to be for a public use, so having it on open hand or fist is kind of bad. So I'm actually going to move that, and I'm going to click on Slap Shaggy and hit delete, and I'm going to put it on thumbs up. So we're going to call it Slap Shaggy, and there you go. All right, so finally, I'm just going to upload this to my account and hop into desktop mode to show you this functioning. All right, now that I'm in game, as you can see, I'm still in desktop, but I can easily show you that this is now working. So you saw the custom override, and if I go to emotes, you see all the things that I added from before in the custom override, and they're all functioning. Now I'm going to hit Shift F6, which will be the Goku hair and the aura will all happen at the same time if you did it correctly. So I hit Shift F6, and that is the rock and roll gesture. And as you see, I now have Goku hair, and my aura is on, and you can hear the sound effect, which will be under avatar sounds and not sound effects. Lastly, I'm going to pull out the chicken, which I believe is, all right, that's Shift F4 for finger point. And then I'm going to use Shift F8, I believe, should make the slap sound. And you see it also enable the dynamic bones, causing like it to jiggle, which is exactly what I want, because when I'm in VR, I will slap with the chicken and hit thumbs up on my other hand, causing it to make a slap sound, and I'll challenge them to a duel, which they will lose. But anyway, thank you for watching my tutorial. Hopefully this helps you do tons of different things. I'm looking forward to all the new memes that are going to pop up with that. And as always, you can check my Patreon for models that I upload weekly, as well as my tutorial videos. I post them on there as well. And to watch me make avatars live and ask questions, you can go to twitch.tv. I stream a couple times a week for a few hours making commissions. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.